Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers before our class. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhurбhavасваha, Tatsavitravare Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat, Asto Ma Sadgamya, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमया मृत्युर्मा अमृतं गमया ओम सहनावतु सहनो भुनक्तु सवीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ओम शांति शांति शांति. Let's open our Yog Darshan books. So commonly we call it Patanjali Sutras also, or Yog Sutras. So we are on chapter number 3, Vibhuti Pad, and verse number 41. And we are learning different Vibhutis, or the powers these accomplished yogis attain. Okay. And last week we learned that the goal of a yogi is not to accomplish these vibhutis. These vibhutis, they come. But goal is not that. Goal is samadhi. Goal is liberation. Okay? But when these powers come, stay detached from them. Do not brag about them. Do not show off. They will come. Okay? That's what he's telling us. So let's look at verse number 41. Samanajayat jvalanam. So verse number 41. Saman means that Saman Vayu. You remember those 5 Vayus in our body? So Saman Vayu. Jayat means by mastery. Jvalanam, blaze. So by mastery of the Saman Vayu, the body blazes. So it's like a conquest of the Saman. Yogi is able to blaze. What does this blaze means over here? That means there's an aura you see around the yogi. The shine around the yogi. That is Jvalanam. So Rishi Patanjali is emphasizing the importance of mastery over the Saman. The function of the Saman is proper distribution of the healing and the nourishing properties throughout the body. The region of the navel is the main center of the Saman Shakti. Concentration on Saman at the navel center results in spontaneous combustion, actually. This area is also called the Manipur Chakra. The center filled with self-shining gems. Mani means the gems. It is the center of the fire element. After the brain, this region is the center of the largest network of energy channels. So the Shakti concentrated here controls and guides the functions of all of our vital organs. That's why this digestive system is so important. So from the standpoint of bodily functions, the navel center is the core of our body. So mastery over the navel center is an essential part of yogic sadhana. So Saman Vayu produces the digestive fluids related to the fire which digests the food in the stomach. Its range of operation is from the heart to the navel. When the Sman Vayu is mastered by developing the fire principle, because in Hatha Yoga, there are a lot of kriyas, like Agni Sar. When we do the Agni Sar, what do? We are really working on that essence of fire in our body. So the body develops an aura around itself. You see that healthy body has the aura. Calmer mind has the aura. But the sick body, you don't see the aura. So this is also possible, excuse me, through pranayam, by brahmacharya, and by other purification techniques in yoga. But definitely by doing the Agni Sar and by doing the meditation on that Manipur chakra. So that by mastery of the Sman Vayu, the body blazes. Over here, blazes really means it shines. Okay? This health is seen. Let's look at the next verse, 42. Shrotrakashayoh sanbandhasanyamat divyan shrotram. Shrotra, ear. Akashayoh, space. Sambandh, relation. Sanyamat, by sanyam. Divyam, divine. Shrotram, organ of hearing. By sanyam, on the relation of the ear and the space. So it's like from sanyam on the relationship between the sense of hearing and space element, the extraordinary power of hearing is attained. Okay, divine hearing. We all know Akash is the medium through which sound travels. You remember those 5 elements, basic elements? Earth, water, fire, air, and space. So space, Akash, is the medium through which sound travels. And the ear is the organ which grasps the sound. The nature has made this structure of our ear. It just grasps it. Sanyam on the relationship of this gives rise to superphysical sounds, which are no different from the sounds of the physical plane. And the continuity of the sounds is always there, but the plane may be physical or super physical. You have heard about the Nad Yoga. There are 4 types of sounds, or 4 stages of sound in the Nad Yoga. Physical, audible, mental, and transcendental. Physical is called Vakhari. Physical. Okay, when you speak loudly, when we have the loud words, that's called Vakhari. Subtler than that is audible, Madhyama, whispering. Mental is Pashyanti. No words are being used. From mind to mind connection, Pashyanti. And the 4th one is Para. Para is transcendental. Para. In our scriptures, we hear those Akashwanis. Everybody can't hear it. Only the person it's meant for. So in Nad Yoga, there are 4 stages of sound. So Vakhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti, and Par. So these are like 4 different planes of a sound. Our ears have the capacity to hear sounds only within a particular range. But Akash, the space as the medium, has the capacity to conduct all the sounds. So that means even that the Akashvani is coming through, that's why it's called Akashvani, through the space. Sound waves take some time to move from place to place, but once generated, they exist somewhere in gross or subtle form. They are never gone. They say in the Kurukshetra, where Lord Krishna sang that Bhagavad Gita to Arjun, or the conversation between Arjun and Lord Krishna, the yogis of this caliber can hear that firsthand. It still exists. It does not vanish. But we got to have the equipment of that level to hear it. There is the concept in yoga that the sound of the superphysical plane is not cut off from the sound of the physical plane. It is continuous. That's why this Om Dhvani is also, sure, with our mouth we cannot say it all the time, but in the space it's going on all the time. It never gets cut off, this Om Dhvani. That's why it's called Anahat, never ending. So by performing Samyama on the ear and its relation with Akash, a yogi can have the superphysical properties of hearing sounds called superphysical sounds. Divine hearing is becoming sensitive to those subtle sounds which are beyond the range of normal mental capacity. Sanjay could hear, sitting in the palace of Hastinapur, what Lord Krishna was and Arjun was saying, what was happening in that miles away in the war zone. That's what we are talking about over here. When a gross sound stops, you can hear a still finer sound, actually, if you pay attention. When that also stops, you can hear a still finer sounds. Ultimately, the mind becomes so sensitive that it can hear the finest sounds. When that also stops, you may hear your heartbeat. After that, you can catch the vibration of very subtle sound. And by practicing Samyam on Akash and its relationship with the ears, you can start hearing divine sounds. Divine messages are being sent to us all the time. But we got to tune ourselves, tune our ear, our hearing towards that to really understand and grasp those sounds. This is what Rishi Patanjali means over here, that by Samyam on the relation of the ear and space, you can develop a divine hearing. Because sense of hearing is directly linked to the part of the brain that comprehends sound. And this part of the brain is also the center of learning through words. This center gives meaning to the segments of sound and their combinations. So all of this goes hand in hand. Because first we learn to understand the words, the physical words. But now as a yogi or the yoga abhyasi, we want to learn how to comprehend the subtler part and the subtlest part. To do this practice, the yogi isolates the minuscule and extremely precise first portion of the breath, because breathing is connected with it. Then the hearing, and then the space. So you can see that how much concentration, how much samyama we really need. But when we can perfect it, perfection in this practice leads to acquiring this extraordinary power to comprehend sounds and its subtle variants. Okay, so this does take a lot of concentration, lot of meditation, lot of staying away from the general noise of this world. Got to go inward. Let's look at next verse. Verse number 43. kayakashayoh sanbandhasanyamat aghutoolasamapatteshchakashagamanam. Kaya means body. Akashayoh, of space. Sambandh, relation. Sanyamat, by sanyama. Laghu, light. Tool. Tool means cotton, like a cotton fiber. Tool. Or even a wool. Wool is also called tool. Samapate, by fusion of mind. Cha means and, akash means space, gamanam, going through. So it's like a moving through the space. From Samyama on the relationship between the body and the space, or from mental absorption in the light cotton fiber, the power of moving through space is attained. So Samyam on the relation of the body and Akash. And by fusing the mind with the lightness of the cotton, there's a going through the space. So tool means a finest fiber of cotton, extremely light like which can float in the air, that kind of a fiber. So a yogi can float in the air if he does Samyam on the relation of his body with Akash, and also concentrates on the lightness of the cotton fiber. So it's like you feel, you concentrate that, hey, you're light, you are as light as the cotton fiber. This siddhi requires a clear-cut understanding of the components of the body and mind. Only then it is possible that a yogi may resolve his body, lightness of the physical body, can felt the physical. Normally we feel the heaviness of the body. We all know that if we have eaten too much, body feels heavy. Even any kind of a pressure on the mind, the heaviness of the body and the mind. So over here, concentration on the cotton fibers, and that lightness is actually subjective lightness. Subjective. It's only a feeling. Because does Atma have any weight? No. There's no form, there's no weight of the Atma. So with this Samyama, you are reaching towards that part of you which does not even have any weight. So the yoga sadhak should slowly, mentally resolve the physical body. It's like, okay, you are detaching from this physical body mentally, even though you have a body, but you are detaching it. And gradually the concept of the physical body dissolves. But that is a subjective feeling. Body is there. Others can see your body. But in that state, you are totally detached from that body. Then you can fly. So this is a very extremely extraordinary ability to move through the space. And we talked about it earlier also, these kind of powers. Because basically what he is telling us to do the Samyama, reach to that level of perfection. And ability to move through space is also called in Sanskrit, other scriptures, Khechari Siddhi. Khechari. Okay, it's like a char means roaming, kha means the space, Khechari. There are several techniques leading to this extraordinary accomplishment. But in this verse over here, in this sutra, he is telling us to practice dharana at the spot of the body where we can most easily feel the lightness. Lightness of a cotton fiber. Because our body does move in space, it exists in space. And there's a space inside our body too. See, all those 5 elements, they are not only outside. Our whole body is made up of those 5 elements. So he is telling us, pay attention to that space element in your body. See, there's a water element in our body, earth element, fire element. See, when he told us to concentrate on the Samanajayat, that's a fire element. Over here in this one, this practice of the Samyama is on the space part in our body. Outside, we are familiar with the space. Between 2 objects, there's a space. But we often forget that there's a space inside our body too. So we got to have the experiential comprehension of the space inside of our body. We are actually caged in space, if you can visualize it. But we know only what has been caged, not the cage itself. So we have been caged, our body is caged, and we are familiar with the body only. But Rishi Patanjali is telling us to concentrate the cage also. So comprehending the space touching our body requires first displacing that space by bringing an object into the close contact with the body. And that object must be conducive to our purpose. It should not be irritating. And what is that object? Our breath. Breath is an object too. So one of the spots most sensitive to directing the breath is the opening of the nostrils. That's why these advanced pranayams, they help us to master these. So breath, forget about everything else. Forget about rest of the body. Concentrate on the breath. The incoming and outgoing breath changes the quality of the space in immediate contact with the general region of the opening of our nostrils. Even though the breath does not completely displace the space, but it definitely increases or decreases pranic pressure in that region. And this pressure is registered by the sense of touch, which is highly active in that region. That means near our nostrils. We all know touch is the property of the air, not of the space. See, space's property is what? The sound. Touch is part of the air. So the feeling of touch interposes itself between space and skin senses the touch. And concentration on this feeling allows the mind to comprehend that on one side of this feeling is the skin or sensing the touch, on the other side, the pure space. So it's just like you are bringing your attention to the minutest part. What is happening? This is called a sparsh dharana. Concentration on touch. And then what happens after that? You withdraw your mind from the object of sparsh dharana, the touch. Taking the practice of dharana to the highest stage of dhyan, where the object of meditation dissolves into the feeling of being the meditator. So it's like a moving from a grosser to the subtler to the subtlest. So in this case, the experience of touch merges with the meditative mind. Mind is in direct contact with the space that was one filled with the feeling of touch. So through these processes, the mind becomes increasingly sharp and refined. And what happens? It drops the physical dimension of the object of concentration. Because in order to roam in the space, you got to become very light. He said, lighter than cotton fiber. You got to learn how to absorb in the subtle counterpart. The subtle counterpart has no weight. Because we all know the weight is the property of mass, which exerts itself only in proportion to the gravitational force of another body of the matter. So mental absorption in the non-physical pure idea nullifies the relational value of the weight. That's how a yogi becomes free from this gravitational pull. And this universe is vast. There's a space around our body, inside our body. Space is inside the corpse also. Inside the corpse body, there is space. Space is everywhere. The yogi is guided to assess the progress with the detachment. How detached are we? How detached? Can we let go, mentally let go of this body, idea of our body, or not? Not just talking about the physical things, but even the idea of the body, that I am the body. Or even I have the body, because sometimes when we think that I have something, we get attached to. So body is not mine. Body belongs to the Prakriti. Can we just let go of that idea for a few hours a day? Only then this is accomplished. Okay, so let's look at the direct meaning. He says, from Samyam on the relationship between the body and space, or from mental absorption in a light cotton fiber, the power of moving through space is accomplished. Okay, so it's just like a pretty high level of accomplishment. Let's look at next verse, 44. Bahi akalpitaha vriti mahavideha tataha prakash avarna kashaya. This is about the universal state of mind. Bahi means external. akalpitaha, unimaginable. Vritti, state of mind. Mahavideha, existence without body. Tataha, therefrom. Prakash, light. Avarna, covering. Kashaya, destroyed. In the state of Mahavideha, the vrittis are inconceivable and outside the scope of the body, whereby the covering of light is destroyed. Vritti. You remember the second sutra of this book, the definition of yoga? Yoga chit vritti nirodha, vrittis. So over here he says the state of Mahavideha is this. So the word Mahavideha means the great or universal state of mind which functions without the physical body. The content of our mind is made up of two things. Number one is those that we learn and experience in everyday life. The impressions of this life and many other lives also. This content of the mind is dependent on the store of past impressions, sanskars, or the vasanas. And the second one is there is a state called the universal mind. The individual mind is made up of impressions of various kinds. It depends on the contact with the external world, like sense organs, etc. But its basis is the universal mind, though. The universal mind is original. It is the common foundation of the personality of all human beings. Universal mind. So our individual mind, and then there's a universal mind. So if all the impressions of experience could be taken out of the mind, what would remain? That will be the universal mind. And a universal mind is infinite, limitless. And the state of Mahavideha is to be aware of that universal mind. When this is contacted by Samyama, a person can exist without a body. Mahavideha. So this Mahavideha state is a vritti. It is a state of mind. When this state is established, the covering of light is destroyed. So that means, what is the light? Light means the light of our Atma. Right now it's covered. It's covered with vrittis. So those vrittis have been extinguished. When you go on negating the impressions gained through your contact with the senses and the external world, then you arrive at a state of mind in which the universal mind functions independently of the body, mind, and senses. You don't need the eyes to see, you don't need the ears to hear. In that state, the spiritual light shines clearly because of the removal of its covering. Covering is also called the avarna. It's like a sheath. This is different from the covering of light, which is removed by practicing pranayama. Because he talked about that also when he mentioned pranayama. But this is even subtler than that. So through pranayama techniques, we remove some of the covering. But then through Samyama, we even remove further coverings. More light is seen. Right now, all these powers have been lost to us. That's why these great rishis, they come again and again. They tell us that all of this can be ours. Inherently, all these powers are ours because we are the soul. These are all related to the soul. But in the advanced stages of this practice, sometimes in the brief moments, you might feel it. That, yeah, I am more than this body. Body is just like a cage. But we have to bring more and more refinement in our continuous practice. So not just a videha, he uses the word over here, mahavideha. So a yogi fully established in this space of consciousness is not bound by those 5 afflictions at all. Not bound by karmas and the forces that bring karmas to fruition. Such yogis are able to go back and forth between their bodies and the space of consciousness outside their body. Just like we can move from one room to the other room in our house, or from one town to the other town. With the same kind of ease, they can move. Death has no meaning for Mahavideha. Their will is guided by the will of God. They come and go as Ishwar wants. They are not here to achieve anything new. They are just servants of God. They feel safe no matter where they are because there's no affliction. There's no abhinivesh. There's no attachment. They can see their own luminosity. And of course, they can travel wherever they want to go. But definitely, it is beyond the comprehension of a normal mind like ours. So first we have to have faith in this. Then after that, practice on this too. Practice what he has been telling us. You remember in the second chapter, that was a sadhana pad. Are we doing all those sadhanas? So having faith where we are going, but doing the sadhana where we are. That's very important too. But faith. So next week, we will start with the verse number 45. Over there, he's telling us the mastery of the bhuts. Bhut Jaya is the word. Sathul, Savrup, Suksham, Anve, Arthvatva, Sanyamad, Bhut Jaya. Mastery over these elements. He says by Sanyam and the gross, basic, subtle, and interpenetrating states. And the purpose of the bhuts, what is the purpose of all these elements? Mastery over them is obtained. Okay, so we'll start from this verse next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much.